Let's not waste your time. Is this game worth it? Yes. Is it worth the $50 Nintendo was asking for? Well, that's another story. Nintendo recently released this remake of the 2004 GBA game, and while it's exactly what they said it would be, it does leave something to be desired, at least for the campaign. Let's get into the details. Story. The story of this game is simple and weird. Donkey Kong is watching TV at home and sees that a Mario toy has gone on sale, and when he attempts to go buy one, he finds that they are all sold out, so he breaks into the factory where they're making them and steals them all. Thus, Mario is on a mission to get back all of the mini Marios that were taken, and your adventure begins. There's never been much to most games involving Donkey Kong when it comes to story, and this one is no different. It is the basis though for how we ended up with future mini Mario games on DS, 3DS, and Wii U. So while it is basic, it did influence other games down the road. Gameplay. Mario controls fairly uniquely in this one. His usual run and jumps augmented with a handstand and a spring jump. He lifts enemies in the air above his head like in Super Mario Bros. 2, and there are familiar faces like Shy Guys and Boos. There's spikes to avoid, ladders to climb, ice to slide on, and switches to hit. Your usual dose of Mario traversal is all here. You can see how the 2004 original was made in the image of the 1994 Game Boy game Donkey Kong, itself a reimagining of the classics from the 80s. While I think the word frenetic is used too often when describing games these days, I will say that that feeling is definitely missing here. Mario's speed is extremely slowed down if you're used to him in other games. I understand that in the 80s and 90s, this might have been a limitation of hardware, and I'll even give the 2004 Game Boy Advance original a pass, but there's no reason to be so slow in 2024, even if the Switch is 7 years old. If Mario moved faster, or there was a setting to make this an option, I think the game would have fared a lot better critically and commercially. Of course, we don't have any numbers as of writing this, but I do think it really could have made a name for itself in the speedrunning community if it didn't inherently feel so slowed down. I will say that collecting all 3 boxes in each stage, and the challenge of keeping all the minis alive before facing DK himself at the end of each world, was both engaging and a decent challenge. The game is overall a cakewalk, but trying to 100% it makes it enjoyable. Graphics. While not incredible by any stretch, they did the requisite amount of work to say that they didn't phone it in. It's the same model of Mario and DK that we've seen for the last few years now. Actually, for the last few generations. And the minis look about the same too. There are some small touches, like you can see the crank on their back winding around, which is a nice detail. And the one part that does look impressive is the background. The original Game Boy Advance game had pretty nice backgrounds for a handheld game, and here they've done the same level of detail. There's a slight bokeh effect that really puts the distance between the foreground and background, which I really like. Besides that, it's just fine. So like I said, is it worth it? Well, not every game needs to be Elden Ring or Grand Theft Auto. Not every game needs to have me on the edge of my seat, dying over and over again. I fired this game up a few times before going to bed recently, knocked out a handful of levels, and then had gone right to sleep. With my wife and I just waiting for our baby girl to arrive soon, I don't need the added stress of throwing my controller out the window when I die repeatedly in a really hard level. So some mindless Mario fun is just what the doctor ordered. That said, I would tell anyone right now to wait for a sale. The only reason I got this game, especially during my year of not spending any money on games, is because I had a voucher that I'd used for Super Mario RPG, and my NSO membership was expiring at the end of this week. Apparently you must have an NSO membership to redeem any vouchers, so if I hadn't used this, I'd have to wait until I renewed my NSO, probably next calendar year, and the voucher itself would have expired. So here we are. If we're giving grades, I'd give it about a 7.5 out of 10. Very entertaining, slightly overpriced, not innovative, but exactly what Nintendo presented to us. As I'm thinking about my daughter arriving and how we'll raise her, I've been wondering what games to let her play first when she's old enough. In a few years, I obviously want to show her the classics, like Super Mario Bros. And the like, and I think this would be a good addition to that list. In the meantime, save your money and wait till it's on sale. As we get closer to the 30th anniversary of Donkey Kong Country this fall, I'll put out a video on my thoughts around the series and what it feels like to be a fan of the character at this stage in his career. I've been playing the first 2 Donkey Kong Country games on both Super Nintendo and in the Super Nintendo section of NSO, and while I still enjoy and respect them, it's definitely hard to recommend them, particularly to younger players. I'll have more thoughts on this later, but for now, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.